All right, let's get right into it. Watchman of Ephraim. Another Synagogue of Satan video. This is a good one, actually. Someone else is going to bring you the witness that what I believe, I don't know if this person believes that the Hebrew roots Messianic movement or the Synagogue of Satan, but this guy busts them in his video. I do believe his name is John Rittenbaum. Could be off. I've watched the video a couple times. But this one deals with the new or renewed covenant, the question mark. Many in the Hebrew roots Messianics are pushing that the new covenant, which this person witnesses right now in my studies, is not enforced yet, not in force, not until the millennium begins and the remnant of Judah return. It's going to be for them. I believe in the priesthood age, as I like to call it. We are under the covenant of Sarah, the Abrahamic covenant, the covenant of circumcision. Witnessed in the Torah, died and raised on the 8th day of Pentecost, the body of the Messiah to join him in the heavenlies. Just as the priests, the Levites, the shadow of the Melchizedek priesthood, served in the shadow and copy of the heavenly things, so the reality is now. Well, through faith. From the Torah. The body of flesh, the body of sins, done away, cut away by the circumcision of Messiah, who was raised on the 8th day himself, on the day of the wave sheaf offering. We are finished products, Godhood beings once again. Well, anyways, new or renewed covenant. So, real quick, Hebrew roots, Messianics, and the like, many of them push that we are now under a renewed covenant. Some of them just believe we're still under the old covenant, which is really what they believe is the same thing. It was just renewed. Jesus just renewed it. Nothing new, only it's all put in your heart and your mind. Well, I've shown you what actually is going to be put in their hearts and their mind. Yeah, they're going to walk in love. They're going to fulfill the law. They're going to fulfill those right rulings or judgments and statutes that God, Yahweh, implemented at Sinai. They're going to walk in the newness of the Spirit, absolutely. They're going to come to understand that Messiah is their Passover lamb. They're going to understand that Messiah is the solemn Sabbath rest, that on the day that they accept the Messiah, they get all these holy days applied to them. And on that same day, there is a solemn Sabbath rest for them when they leave Egypt. You, the priests, are going to teach these things. Anyways, they don't think that anything's new, really. Just going to be put in your heart and your mind to keep Torah. Once again, there is a distinction between priest and people, the common land people coming. Anyways, let's go ahead and, where am I at here? Get out of that one. Let's just go over here. Anyways, if you go to YouTube, there's a lot of, we're going to be looking at this video. It's about a half hour long. I'll probably stop it and make comments along the way. There's a lot of videos on this topic. New covenant or renewed. A lot of Hebrew rooters, Messianics jumping in here. The renewed covenant. Is it new or renewed? New or renewed covenant. Okay. So on and so forth. So I just want to show you that if you want to look that up concerning this. So this one we're going to look at here. This guy's an Orthodox guy, and but he busts them. He busts them on outright lies. You can judge for yourself. You'll see how they outright lie, and you'll see the I'm at a loss for words. The sneakiness, the deviousness of what they do. Because once again, they live in a false paradigm, a false world, where just they and Orthodox pagan Christianity exist. So they have to be, let's say they're the white, and Orthodox mainstream Roman Catholic Protestantism is the black. Whatever they have to be right, because obviously, which is the mother harlot Catholic Church and their children, obviously this movement has to be right. Number one, the law is in the Bible. Mainstream Orthodox, other than grace, say, not in the Bible. Well, the law is in the Bible. The problem is, as written by Moses, the letter, the grammar, not in authority right now, because it's the age of the priesthood. Okay. So I'm going to get into this video here. I'll have the small screen here because I'm going to make a few comments, because this guy's, or the first person, the two people actually he calls out here, John Lawson he busts, and Michael Rood. You'll see plain as day the deviousness of how these two people push, or how they try to prove. They're going to really zero in on John Lawson. The deviousness, the outright lie, how they try to push that this new covenant is actually in reality a renewing of the old covenant. The whole letter of the law. They destroy the whole work of God. I'll be sipping coffee from time to time. All right. Let's get the show going here.
Hello and welcome to Beginning of Wisdom. I'm Andrew Schumacher. This video is the latest in a series I started a while ago called The Cross and the Torah, which looks at Hebrew roots and Torah observance arguments and claims and examines them in light of Scripture. My goal for this series is to be a library of videos addressing all the most popular claims they make. After the video, go check out my playlist. Now, if you've been around the Hebrew roots movement for a while, you're certainly familiar with their need to explain away the new covenant. The new covenant presents a problem for them simply because their theology, instead of being based on careful exegesis, is based on a principle of old equals good and new equals bad. There's also the fact that the book of Hebrews clearly teaches that the new covenant replaces the covenant with Israel made through Moses at Mount Sinai. Since all the laws that talk about the stuff they want everyone to do are found in that covenant, it's kind of a problem for them if a new one makes the old one pass away. So how do they get around it? I've seen two primary methods. Number one, they claim it's not really new, but renewed, so no change really. Or number two, they push it off into the future. So
that's the view that I have at this time. Could I change my mind? Yeah. Right now, that's what I see, that we are under the covenant of Abraham, Sarah, as Paul witnessed in Galatians. Galatians is primarily about, the argument is about circumcision, physical circumcision. And he brings the whole Old Covenant in, which at the core is the Ten Commandments. We are a finished product. Anyways, going on.
So that it doesn't apply to any of us now. In this video, we're going to examine the first of these methods. Is the new covenant really renewed, meaning everything in the old covenant carries over? Now, if you're sharp, you will have noticed that this really is two questions. First, is the covenant new or renewed? And second, if it is renewed, does that mean everything from the first covenant carries over? And so we come to the first problem with this argument. Those who argue for a renewed covenant never really go on to make the biblical case that this renewal must mean that everything carries over. That is just assumed. So even if the argument for renewed works, it doesn't prove enough. Don't be fooled. They're not arguing for that further point. They're just smuggling it in. But let's get to that first question. That's why you're here. Is it a new or renewed covenant? I'll let one of the videos out there promoting the renewal view make this argument. It makes a lot of arguments, but we'll just focus on this one about new meaning renewed.
So this first guy is John Lawson. Notice who he pulls in to make his argument.
Or renewed covenant. Many Christians say that we are in a new covenant and the old is done away with. They say that the Torah is done away with and the Old Testament, also known as the Old Covenant, has ended.
Okay, so what he's doing is he's pulling in pagan, orthodox, mainstream Christianity for his argument, who wrongly believe and witness that the Old Testament and the Torah is done away, that the law is abolished, was fulfilled, and is abolished. That is false. The Torah, once again, will continue to be fulfilled until the new heaven and new earth, the 8th day after tabernacles, the new heaven and new earth. Number two, and we are in the priesthood age part of it, where they, through the Torah, the first fruits have died and been raised into the heavenlies and are huios, sons of God, descendants of God, with the white godhood, priesthood garments. Number two, pagan, Orthodox, Roman Catholic, Protestant Christianity and their pagan cloaked in Christianity holidays did not exist in the first century once again. The debate in the first century in the Gospels in Acts 15 was not whether we could keep pagan holidays or keep this kind of Christianity. It didn't exist. The debate was simply whether believers, especially the Gentiles, were under the letter or the grammar of Moses versus the spirit of the Torah, or, as in my research, the Torah of the priesthood, of which both these movements don't even go into Leviticus to study and apply to themselves, which witnesses there the ordination of the priesthood, the dying and being raised with Messiah, Aaron and his sons, all the work done by Moses or God himself, which you can see in Colossians 2, real quick, Romans 6, beginning of Romans 6, and Ephesians chapter 2. That's where Paul pulled from this stuff. And you can get into even Galatians. Anyways, this didn't exist. This paradigm, this false paradigm, did not exist in the first century. And also, debates like this, which day is the Christian Sabbath? I read that book in like the late fall of 1985, Worldwide Church of God, which I belonged to for like 15, 16 years. Would never trade it for anything. Okay, this is a false debate. Didn't exist in the first century. There was never a debate on whether to keep Sunday or Saturday as the Sabbath. The whole thing is false. All right? You weren't, as a finished product, you weren't obligated to keep any Sabbath day. Man, you were in the 8th day, a new creation Sabbath, along with the 7th day. You got it all. All right. I'm done with that. I can just beef it up here.
Did you know that the idea of a brand new covenant isn't biblical? Instead, God speaks of a restored, renewed, and repaired.
Pay close attention to this deception of this guy here on this video is going to expose this John Lawson here.
Paired covenant. This renewed covenant is already in place with God and man. It's the first half of the Bible.
Ready to start eating healthier? Meet Kachava. Kachava is the...
Let's define what the word new and how this new, or should we say renewed covenant, works with the Torah and the church today. Let's look at the word new. It's Strong's word 2318. It's
Pay close attention to this deception.
Hadesh, and it means to rebuild, restore, repair, renew. So there really isn't a new covenant or New Testament. It's the same covenant, same testament, only renewed and restored thanks to Yeshua.
So Michael Rood also makes an argument, an appeal to this in a little bit less convincing way here.
Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Now, this is the only place that we hear the words new covenant spoken of by the prophets. In fact, it is Kodesh. It is renewed covenant. It is not a new covenant, it's a renewed covenant. That's why when Yeshua, the night of the Last Supper, says, this is in King James, the New Testament in my blood, ain't no such thing.
Okay. New Testament in my blood. The shed blood instead of an animal's blood, or animal's blood, peace offering, sin offering, Passover sacrifice. You had a man instead of animals. Fulfill all those sacrifices and his blood, human blood, shed. Isn't that new? I'm telling you, man. Crazy doctrines will turn you into a crazy person. Okay? I'll just go on. Okay. Do you agree with that? That the man fulfilling the lamb and the goat, the atonement, the Day of Atonement, the whatever, bulls, whatever. Think of these ram. Think of it, a man. Is that new? You know what? It's because of that false paradigm. Because they believe, this movement believes that it's like a firewall, a protection by them against keeping pagan home. It's just they're in the false paradigm. Okay,
It's a mistranslation. Now we got a letter from a gentleman that says, I've looked up the words new covenant or New Testament in the Greek, and it doesn't say new, it says fresh. It doesn't say renewed, it says fresh. Well, it doesn't matter what the Greek says, because the Greek does not have a concept. It is talking about when Yeshua said, this is the renewed covenant in my blood. He's taking us back to the prophecy of Jeremiah.
Okay, so both John Lawson in the first clip and Michael Rood are presenting the idea that the underlying Hebrew word, kadash, means renewed. Is that true? let's look at that section of the Lawson clip again.
It's Strong's word 2318. It's Hadesh, and it means to rebuild, restore, repair, renew.
Okay, 2318, right. Let's look that up here on Bible Hub. So,
Pay close attention. This is quite a deception. 2318, Kodash. Just watch where this goes.
2318. Let's see what it says. So, okay, it looks like you've got the Greek or the Hebrew. We'll go for the Hebrew. And there's our word. Kadash means renew, repair. We look at the New American Standard Translation, repair, restore. All those words he was pointing out for sure. Okay, so far so good. Let's take a look over here. We've got the different occurrences, and it looks like, scrolling down, there are 10 of them. So let's take a look at those. So we've got, for Samuel, renew the kingdom, restore the altar, restore the house. This makes a lot of sense. Renew a steadfast spirit within me. That's from the Psalm. Very good, very good. Okay. Looks like repair the ruined something there in Isaiah. And then Lamentations, renew our days. So very good. So it means renew for sure. But wait, hold on. We got a problem. Lamentations, as you may know, was written by Jeremiah. Comes after the book of Jeremiah. But I don't see any Jeremiah here. Now, this was all supposed to come from Jeremiah 31:31, the new covenant. So what's going on there? Let's go take a look at Jeremiah and see what's going on. So Jeremiah 31:31 I have pulled up here as well, and the words are all out of order, but that's just because this is interlinear. But here's the word we're looking for, new covenant, right down here. And I see, there it is, 23:19. Well, let's pull that up and take a look. Is that our word? Wait a minute. So he said 23:18.
It's Strong's word 23:18.
But
Okay, so he's witnessing to you the wrong Hebrew word or variation of it. Both Michael Rood and John Lawson and all these Hebrew rooters and messianics, they witness the wrong variation of the word. In other words, they're lying. Let's have this guy continue his witness.
Jeremiah passage has 23:19. It's a different number. Okay, so 23:19. And I can see the confusion here. If you look at this spelling, this is the English, but even down here, if you look at the Hebrew right there, you've got Kadash and Kadash. So if you look close, I'll switch back and forth here, and you see what I've got there, 23:19 and 23:18. It's the same three Hebrew letters. So what's the difference? Well, if you look close, here's what we can see. 23:18 we see is a verb. So this is the word being used as a verb, and 23:19 is an adjective. And 23:19 is what we found in Jeremiah.
The world is at a tipping point as historical events of biblical proportion.
Now, for those of you who didn't pay much attention in your English class, a verb is an action word. It's something you do, right? And an adjective is a descriptive word for a noun, a person, place, thing, concept, something like that. So now you're going to get a lesson in biblical studies. We are clearly dealing with two forms of the same Hebrew root word. the verb, and the adjective. So the question we should be asking is how the words get used throughout Scripture. We looked already a bit at the verb. It really does get translated in the terms the Hebrew roots teachers are talking about. But the verb is not in Jeremiah. The adjective is. So let's take a look at those. So coming back over here and looking at 23:19, the adjective. Let's go ahead and scroll down here. There are a lot more occurrences as an adjective. It says 53. And let's take a look at these. So just the first couple here says, now a new king arose. Right, a new king. And this is from Exodus 1:8. This is the verse about a new king arose in Egypt that did not remember Joseph. So it's definitely not a renewed king. That doesn't even really make much sense. But, I mean, certainly in the context, it's definitely a new king, not a renewed anything. Leviticus 23:16 says, you shall present a new grain offering. Again, I don't really understand how one would renew a grain offering. Obviously, this is from the harvest. This is new grain to be offered. And so as we kind of go down, we see new grain offering, new house. You build a new house. You can't really build a renewed house. You can renew a house that's already built. Take a new wife. Well, that's in context, that's a new wife. That's not renewed doesn't really fit there. Deuteronomy 32 says new gods who came. This is about them worshiping demonic forces. And it literally says, if you read that passage in Deuteronomy 32, it says, well, you see it right there in the NAS, gods you have not known. So there's no such thing as renewed gods. These are gods they had not known. They were new to them. Let's see, we're new. It looks like maybe he's talking about wineskins. I'm not clicking into all of these, but new gods, new ropes. And again, this is in Judges, this is from the Samson passage, where it even talks about which have not been used. So that's definitely new in that case. Prepare a new cart. They put they put the ark on a new cart. That's what those passages are talking about. Had a new sword, new cloak. Again, I mean, new sword, new cloak. I guess you could try to say that such a thing could be renewed, but nothing from the text is telling us that. And then we've got Chronicles, which is kind of reiterating stuff. But new wineskins in Job. You can't use old wineskins. You can't renew wineskins. You need new ones. Okay, then Psalms talking about different, just new song. I'll sing a new song. Oh, Ecclesiastes, you look, is something new? No, it isn't new. It's already been there. In that context, nothing new under the sun, because everything comes from something else. Even new things came from somewhere, that isn't new. So coming into Isaiah, it looks like I've made you a new sharp something. Don't know that one off the top of my head. I will declare new things, that you haven't heard. Again, we got a new song again. Something new things from this time. You'll be called by a new name. Yeah, new heavens, new earth. Yes, could you speak of these as being renewed? Possibly. So in a small minority, we might have things that we could, maybe translate as renewed, but it's certainly not universal. That's that much we know for sure, and it's not even the normal way. Now here we come to Jeremiah 31. I make a new covenant. I'll give you a new heart, new spirit. And so, yeah, it's speaking of, putting a new spirit in us. It's not an old spirit. To us, it's a new spirit. And that's the Spirit of God. Obviously, that's infinitely old. But it's certainly not renewed either. God's Spirit is ever new. It's not something that needs to be renewed. So yeah, there's by and large, it means new. It doesn't mean renewed. But remember what Michael Rood said. Remember that?
In fact, it is Kodesh. It is renewed covenant. It is not a new covenant. It's a renewed covenant.
Outright lie. Trying to pawn off the wrong variation, Kadesh. Trying to pawn off the, the verb instead of the adjective. Again, this is both these movements are wrong. They're false. The Hebrew roots, Messianics, and mainstream Christian, they're both false. Okay. Outright lie. Those who say they are Jews and are not, but do lie.
In King James, the New Testament in my blood ain't no such thing. It's a mistranslation. Kodesh.
Today I'm going to show you how to make the most powerful, legal, pain-killing powder using this useless...
So this is the word here in Jeremiah. And he's saying, oh, it definitely doesn't mean that. It definitely means renewed. Well, we saw that most of the time it can't mean renewed.
Renewed.
And, for a tiny fraction, you could potentially try to force that in there, but you can't. It's certainly not required. Like it's only required in one verse out of all the ones that we saw, if your theology requires it. You see. So we have something pretty consistent going on here. When the word is used as a verb, it means to renew, to restore. And when it's used as an adjective, it means new. That's the overwhelming testimony of what we see here. And not in no case do I see the requirement that the adjective should be translated as renewed. There's no indication that's ever the case. So let's look again at the words themselves. So the verb kadash, and you can see here the phonetic spelling that I'm getting, kadash means to renew, whereas the adjective kadash means new. It just means new in the Hebrew. So what does this tell us about our...
Listen to his conclusion. And this is an Orthodox guy, and so he's on the wrong side of the tracks also. He believes the law is abolished, and a new covenant means you can go out and keep Christmas, Easter, and all that stuff. Probably believes in the immortal soul and all that. Both these movements are false, but he busts these people. Listen to his conclusion on these two guys that have tried to pawn off the wrong word. The wrong word in Strong's and in the Hebrew Scriptures. Trying to pawn off the verb refresh, renew, instead of the adjective of Kodesh, new. Listen to his conclusion on these two people.
Our Hebrew roots teachers that we're looking at right now. Michael Rood is either an incredibly bold liar, willing to tell you something about a Hebrew word that is literally the opposite of what you will find when you look it up, or he's utterly incompetent to handle the Hebrew, and everything that he says about it should be taken as suspect. You couldn't get more wrong than what he said. John Lawson doesn't make such sweeping statements, but in a way, you could actually say he's even more clearly lying.
So the conclusion he's getting at is they're liars. Okay? They want to be Jews. They want to be Hebrews. They cross over the Jordan. They're Hebrews. All right? They're Jews. They dress like Jews. They want to talk like Jews, speak the Hebrew, dress like Jews, whatever, sing like, whatever, anything Hebrew Jewish. Physically, they're lying. Okay. I mean, I've made mistakes, but I believed what I was, I mean, I didn't come right out and deceive. I mean, this is just a bold, calculated deception because of the paradigm they're in.
He cites the wrong Strong's number, talking about Jeremiah 31:31, in order to make it fit his argument. His video isn't like Michael Rood's in that it's sort of an extemporaneous speech that is being presented uncut. It is a carefully crafted, scripted video with graphics to show you everything that he's saying and back it up. Not only does he cite the wrong Strong's number, but he even puts it on the screen.
It's Strong's word 2318. It's Hadesh, and it means to rebuild, restore, repair, renew.
And when you realize that the verb and adjective forms of a word get different Strong numbers, you can catch it right away. And notice how he reads the verbs to go along with 2318.
And it means to rebuild, restore, repair, renew.
That's because it's a verb. But the word in Jeremiah isn't a verb. But you remember what he said at the beginning of the video about what the new covenant is like?
Instead, God speaks.
Once again, pulling in the false paradigm. So they have to be right because it's the law, right? And pagan Christianity is false.
Of a restored, renewed, and repaired covenant.
You see, he changes it from the verb
to rebuild, restore, repair, renew,
which is
calculated lie.
What the Strong's number is about, to the adjective.
God speaks of a restored, renewed, and repaired covenant. To rebuild, restore, repair, renew. Restored, renewed, and repaired.
Which is a different number. It is not the one there. And the fact is, as we saw, when you look up the verse, it gives you the correct Strong's number. You have to go looking for the other one to find the definition that he liked. The word in Jeremiah isn't a verb, and he knows it. Now,
he said he knows it. It's an outright calculated deception. They're liars. Okay? And it's the paradigm that they're in that makes them lie. This movement grew out of the Orthodox pagan Christianity, grew out of it. Once people started to come out. Herbert Armstrong, Ellen G. White. Okay.
do we have any other reasons to believe that the new covenant is really new and not something that's renewed from the Sinai covenant? It's funny, really, when you look at it. The insistence that it's renewed just flies in the face of the text itself. Let's just look at the text. Behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not like the covenant which I made with their fathers in the day I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. My covenant which they broke, although I was a husband to them, declares the Lord. But this is the covenant which I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord. I will put my law within them, and on their heart I will write it, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. They will not teach again each man his neighbor, and each...
And what you're seeing here in Jeremiah 31:34 is a dark, shadowy saying. Okay, these Hebrew rooters, they read this and they take it literally. Like you're just going to put the whole law of Moses in their mind and in their hearts. What he's going to do is he's going to put the Holy Spirit, he's going to put the Spirit of Christ and the Spirit of himself in man. He's going to put God all in all. This is the destiny of mankind, to be descendants of the Most High, to be his children. Okay, and the Torah is going to teach, the Torah will teach these people, the infants, the babies that are coming, and that the priests are going to be over. The Torah teaches Matthew 7:12. As Messiah summed it up. Do unto others as you would want them to do to you. Okay. For the end, the telos of the commandment is love. 1 Timothy 1:5. For all the law is fulfilled in one word. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. And by what? The Holy Spirit that's shed abroad in our hearts. The Spirit of God. By the Spirit of God. Romans 5:5. Okay? To take this literally and say it's a renewed covenant, it would be like reading the law of the Passover in Exodus chapter 12. And can you see that a man was going to fulfill that law? The Passover, lamb, Torah, instruction in Exodus 12. Take a lamb and roast it with fire. Take the blood and sprinkle and splatter it, whatever, on the doorposts and the lintel of your houses. Can you see that a man would fulfill that? They're just dark, shadowy sayings. Okay. As a priest, you're going to teach all these things. What the Ten Commandments and all the law of Moses was about, the shadow of the good things to come. The Ten Commandments can be fulfilled, therefore it is a shadow. For all the law is fulfilled in one word. Right? There's one example. Anything that can be fulfilled is a shadow. I don't know, if I have to go too much more with this. I don't, sorry.
Not teach again each man his neighbor, and each man his brother, saying, Know the Lord. For they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them, declares the Lord. For I will forgive their iniquity and their sin.
I'm going to stop it right there because there's really not much more to witness here. You could see the outright lie and deception. So who are these people who bend and twist the scriptures and just right here outright lie? Because of the world that they live in. I mean, you go on Facebook and they just debate back and forth, and even on these YouTube channels, it's the same debate back and forth. The law's abolished. No, you got to keep the whole law of Moses. The law's about you can keep pagan holidays. No, you got to keep God's holy days in the letter. Once again, this was not which day is the Christian Sabbath. Saturday will always be the Sabbath of the seventh day. First day of the week, or Sunday, that's the eighth day in the Torah. Eighth day is all through the Torah. Means new creation, resurrection. That's where the priesthood is at right now. This didn't exist. Pagan holidays or God's holy days? Which? Wasn't the debate in the first century. Pagan Christianity in its Roman Catholic Church didn't exist in the first century. And it's pagan holidays cloaked in Christianity with Christian names. Or so-called names. It's just a false. They're both false. Okay. So there you go. There's just a outright bold lie by those two Hebrew roots leaders, teachers. Okay. So thank you for your time and thank you for listening.